This is why all those niggas in the 90s, my foot is on their throat if niggas going to continue to talk about today's athletes the way that they do. That's why that nigga Karl Malone and John Stockton, the biggest underachievers of all time.
He reported the All-Star was open to take his talents elsewhere for the first time in his 12-year career with the Milwaukee Bucks, but is yet to demand a trade. Here's Shams with the latest on Giannis.
There's a difference between being open-minded and, from what I'm told, exploring other options, actively exploring other options. There's a difference between doing that and asking for a trade. He's in the process of figuring out exactly what he wants to do.
I need to break that down. There's a difference between being open-minded and actually exploring other options.
You ever see Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
That movie will answer that question for you.
Okay, got it.
You love a movie reference.
Oh, Lord.
Stephen A., who you have on this? Who you be having on here, bro? Just call me, bro. Just call me. I got you, bro. Your rating's gonna go back up. Come on, call me. You got it, dog.
You're so Vegas, but you're so Philly at the same time. But
Not so much a Vegas movie as
in my mind, you're from Vegas. Stephen A., what's one word you would use to describe Giannis's career if he doesn't win another title?
Underachiever.
Chat. I want to just let me give you some backstory to this. This clip comes on my phone. I hear as soon as he said that, I stopped the whole video. I was like, I gotta react to this on stream. I say, gotta react to it on stream. We are talking about a man who was in a draft class that was immediately viewed as one of the worst draft classes in the last 25 years. Anthony Bennett was number 1 in that draft class. Anthony Bennett. For years, the best player potentially was going to be Victor Oladipo, and that was before he was in Indiana. It was when he was in Orlando. If not him, then Rudy Gobert or C.J. McCollum. These are the players that are in this draft class, 2013. And then Giannis burst on the scenes. MVPs, DPOY, All-NBA, All-League defensive teams, and brought a championship to an organization that has not seen one since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's name was Lou Alcindor. That's how crazy. That's how crazy of an amazing stretch Giannis has been on. Coming from someone that was getting comps to Nick Batum when he was coming into the league. To call that man an underachiever when he is on trajectory to finish his career as one of the top 15 players to ever touch a basketball is a fucking joke. That's a joke. Now, I have not heard the rest of this take, so we'll hear it, but I had to stop it, and I just want to hear what he has to say.
I'm going to tell you why. It's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Over the last 4 years, minimum 200 games, Giannis, second in the league, 30.4 points per game. Fifth in the league, 11.7 rebounds per game. Fifth among qualifiers at 58% from the field. And 9 All-NBA selections in his career, 9 All-Star selections, and top 10 finishes in league MVP voting 9 times. And he has more of that than postseason series wins. That's unacceptable. It's not his fault. I'm not in any way pointing to him or what he's not doing. I'm saying that you don't look at somebody that dominant, that fantastic, with that kind of fire in his belly to compete on a night-in, night-out basis, and all you have is one championship to show for it. He's got 1 playoff series win in the last 4 years. Ain't his fault. He was hurt a couple of times.
Right.
Got upset by Miami, Jimmy Butler and the crew. Jimmy and them gave it to him, no doubt. But this year, Damian Lillard goes down, you lose to Indiana. We understand all of that. But to know Giannis, his career, his accomplishments, his cachet, and to say 1 championship, no. You definitely expect more than that.
UD?
The take was as bad as I thought it was going to be. I want everybody to understand those things that he listed off. You did not know he was going to receive until really the last 4 years while all of this losing in the postseason was occurring. So it's not as if like these are things in which you were anticipating out of him for the beginning part of his career. No, it just wasn't. Secondly, if you are acknowledging that it's not his fault for a lot of the losing, that it's circumstances that are outside of his control, then underachieving certainly comes across as a bit harsh when there's other words that you could use, such as unlucky, unfortunate. Underachieving means that you put a bar for him to achieve and he was not able to reach that bar, even though he has already far exceeded all of our expectations. All of them. All of them. But here's the most important part of the piece of the puzzle and why to this day I will never stop saying what I say. This is why all those niggas in the 90s, my foot is on their throat if niggas going to continue to talk about today's athletes the way that they do. That's why that nigga Karl Malone and John Stockton, the biggest underachievers of all time. Of all time. Because if you're talking about series loss, first round exits, points scored, stats, points, rebounds, assists, steals, those two take the cake damn near every year, yet still have more first round exits than conference finals appearances, have a losing record in the finals, and a losing record in the playoffs when they played alongside one another. Patrick Ewing doesn't have a championship. Number 1 overall pick, was a highly recruited star out of Georgetown, so much so that people think that David Stern rigged the draft for the Knicks. Couldn't win a fucking championship. That's an underachiever. Charles Barkley, underachiever. So I'm going to continue to speak this way about those losers. If we're now saying that someone who was drafted in the middle of the draft, a player that most of y'all didn't know about, including me. I actually have a very, very funny Giannis story. I'll be quick. So back in the day, I was very active on collecting cards, right? And I would go into the store and I would always collect them, right? And the 2013 draft comes and there's nobody really in this draft. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a bad draft. So the guy who owned the shop, he was basically giving them to me for free. And so I was like, bro, I don't want Anthony Bell. I know he's not going to be good. But I was really high on Victor Oladipo. You can go back to some of my days on Reddit, and I used to push a lot of Victor Oladipo propaganda. And there was, in one of the cards, though, back then, he was like, one of the cards he would try to give me was always players that were drafted in the 2013 draft, the rookie cards. And then he kept pushing Giannis Antetokounmpo. I was like, I don't know who that is. I don't know that Giannis, because he didn't say Giannis. He said Giannis or something like. He said he's obviously saying Giannis' name completely wrong. Antetokounmpo, something crazy. Every time I came to the shop, I got another rookie Antetokounmpo. I got another Giannis. I got another one of them. No, I don't want it. Just give me Oladipo's. I'm turning down rookie Giannis cards. Bro. GG's.
I'm going to say
the
loyal.
One word you would say.
And I'm going to say loyal. Loyal for me, because the only way Giannis doesn't get another championship is in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
If he decides to make a move and put himself in a position to go to a team to win a championship, based on everything you said, all the accolades, still an MVP, still a defensive player of the year, still in his prime, first team all defense, all those things you say, if he goes to a team, I damn near won't book Giannis for a championship. But you're also talking to a guy who spent 20 years for one team, sacrificed money, sacrificed minutes, probably sacrificed, what my career could have been if I would have just played for most of that time. So you're talking to a guy who was willing to sacrifice those things to be in the city, to be comfortable, have your mental health, peace, and all those different things. So I'm never going to question that from Giannis, but the word I'm going to say is loyalty, because the only way this man don't win another championship is if he decides to stay in Milwaukee. And I'm not going to question that, because I decided to stay in Miami for 20 years. In the last 7, I ain't even get no minutes, Stephen A.
Well, I will say this. I
know exactly where you're going.
I mean, when you talk about peace and tranquility and all those different things, Miami definitely does
Yeah, I thought you were going to actually say something different, but
No.
But also
Nice to
you're from Miami, UD, right?
Yes.
So you were
Yes,
at home
yes.
too. So it's like that's kind of a no-brainer. I'm not saying you didn't sacrifice a lot and you weren't loyal, but I wouldn't have left either.
Ward's legend. He'd still be a legend. He put up massive numbers. He would win a championship. So we're not going to sit there and knock him because he never won one. He's a legend. What do we want him to do? We can't get upset every time we have all this player movement trying to form super teams and trying to buy championships, and then get upset when a guy stays loyal and he wants to stay. Happy in Milwaukee. It's on Milwaukee to go out there and do something. He's doing everything.
Completely agree. The point he's making is so valid. I don't understand what y'all want out of people. If I stay on an organization that clearly is having difficulties building around me, then I'm an underachiever. But then you have a problem if I then decide to demand a trade and leave. Or not even demand. If I just fill out my services and I then decide to go somewhere else, then that's a problem as well. But if I stay for an organization that has a hard time building around me, then that's a problem. This idea that that should be the model way to build a career, to me, is so funny because many of the players that we have in our top 10 left the organizations. And again, if it was that important and pertinent that you stayed on one team to win a championship and stay loyal and yada, 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 then y'all would have Tim Duncan over LeBron. Y'all would have Tim Duncan over Shaq. Y'all just make up these reasons to bash players. Who gives a A lot of the people that y'all sit here and y'all praise, they stayed in the NBA for an extended period of time on one team and couldn't win anything. Giannis has already brought a championship to the city. He's done what he was supposed to do already. So if he wants to leave, who cares? Who cares? I mean, Bucks fans are going to care, but who really cares?
Everything he can. We're upset
Look at this nigga Boneless in the chat. And Bruce Jr.
about Luka for not being in shape. We're upset with other players for jumping around from place to place to form their super teams. He shows up in shape. He leads by example. He produces. He plays well. And he's loyal. I don't see anything wrong with that. He'd still be a legend.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Joe. I just still say he had a great career. Like, he still had a great career. I don't know if I could go underachieve. I hear you on all of the individual stats that he puts up. But as you were talking, I'm thinking about the guys that have multiple and how incredible they have been, right? Like, obviously, you look at the Warriors, you look at LeBron, like, history or the legacy, I guess, is still being written when you talk about Giannis. And I actually appreciate the word choice of loyal from UD, but I'm not sure that if he moves, he's automatically going to get another one. I think it matters a lot where he moves. And as much as we're in New York and the Knicks have come up, like, that's going to cost a lot. And to me, that roster might not be that far off from what he had in Milwaukee. So I still would look at this as a great career for Giannis if he got one, because we've talked about plenty of guys that don't even have one.
Well, no one said it wouldn't be a great career.
Right.
What we said was that the word underachieve is apropos because of who we're talking about and the significant level of greatness attached to him. And this is one of the things that I'm going to throw out at both of y'all because you covered the game. Obviously, you being the odds maker, I mean, extraordinaire in Vegas. Look, man, can I ask y'all a question?
Come on.
Does it have any effect at y'all when the stars are home watching the playoffs with the rest of us? It affects me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something right now. When you that big name, you matter. I want to see you playing. I'm not talking about not everybody can't win.
Right.
So if that's the case, then why would you not want him to stay? What? If that's the case, shouldn't there be more incentive for him to then trade? What are you saying? What are you saying right now? What are you saying? Holy
And I get that part, but you know what? When it's the conference finals, I'd like to see you there. That's 4 teams.
Yeah.
If it's the conference semifinals, it's like a 7-game series. I want to see you there. I don't want to see you home in April.
But
I don't want to see you home in April. I want to see you home in the first round.
And I understand what Stephen A. Because to be fair, I do want to see Giannis another deep postseason run. I would love to see that. But if that's the case, brother, then he would need to leave. Then he would just need to leave. I don't know what's the hold up on that point.
He could have gone further if it wasn't for injuries with Dame. But let me ask you guys this. If he was to stay, UD, I'll direct this to you. If he was to stay in Milwaukee, what did they need to do to really contend for a championship? What would you do with that roster?
I mean, first and foremost, I think Dame has to get healthy. That Achilles and at his age, that is definitely a devastating injury to have at his age. And secondly, what were they going to do with Kyle Kuzma? I think that was a big move. I think everybody expected that Kyle Kuzma move to help them in a way on both ends of the floor. I think they were a little bit slow on the defensive transition. I think we expected that to help him. We also expected him to be a third scorer. Obviously, I love Doc Rivers, but he's had some trouble getting over the hump as a coach the last couple of years. So they just have a lot of things and a lot of pieces they need to add around Giannis. He's a guy who likes to get in the paint, spray the ball, so you need to put shooters around him. Those years when they were at the top of the league in the scoring, it was Connaughton and all these guys making shots where Giannis just had to get in the paint. And then they had a closer. Chris Middleton was the closer. He was the guy who they went to, remember, a couple years ago. So those are a lot of pieces that they got to fill. I think Milwaukee Bucks got a lot of work ahead of them if they want to put themselves in the championship conversations and keep Giannis.
Problem is they're lacking the asset.
That's right.
Lacking the asset.
That's right.
There's not a whole lot you can do. If he stays and he stays loyal, it's great that he's loyal and he's there for the rebuild. They did listen to him a couple years ago with the Lillard move. He wanted them to be contenders. They made an aggressive move for Lillard. If it's not working out, I kind of dig the fact that I'm not saying he takes responsibility for it, but it's not like he's pushing the organization to do something. They do it. It doesn't work. He just washes his hands of it and leaves them high and dry. I like the fact
that they've done everything they could to try to appease him. So props to the organization for doing so. But they're bereft of the assets necessary in order to really, really improve their team. And that's
so if they don't have the assets, how have they done everything, bro? Milwaukee has done a really bad job at managing a lot of assets. You need to ask the question, why is it that none of their draft picks have hit since they selected Dante a few years ago? You need to figure out when have they been able to sign someone in free agency for a very low amount of money that it's been able to outperform their contract, right? You need to ask yourself, when is it that they put themselves in a position to find a replacement for Brook Lopez, knowing that he's getting older, knowing that Chris Middleton was hurt and he needed to be a replacement as well. These are all things that, I'm not saying they haven't done any attempt at it, but these are all things of a really good organization that knows that there's certain moves that need to be made. It feels as if like this team is not in that situation at all. There's no young talent coming down the pipeline. Brook Lopez doesn't really have a replacement on his roster. Not only is he old, but he's a free agent now. So there's a lot of things that they need to address. I don't see how you could sit here and say they've done everything in their power. Getting Damian Lillard isn't doing everything in their power. They should have never been in a position to where they needed to make the Hail Mary pass to go get Dame in the first place. And even when they did go get Dame, they didn't have to either give up Drew Holiday or a bunch of draft picks in the process, or if they did, they still had a lot of other pieces to make the team well-rounded. But they don't have anything.
As a result, when you look at it from that standpoint, you just got to look at him and ask yourself again, do you want to be him? I'm going to say the same thing about Kevin Durant and other people, even though Kevin Durant's got 2 chips, okay? And he's been deep into the playoffs many, many times over his career. But you still salivate when you see a star. You don't want them home in the first round.
Of course not. But, Stephen A., do you really think it's a guarantee if he leaves, he wins a championship somewhere else? Because even you brought up KD, even look at that. We thought, all these different situations, Brooklyn would have panned out. We thought Phoenix would have panned. It doesn't always work that way.
It doesn't always work that way, but I think that you'd find a better chance. You'd be playing deeper into the playoffs. See, again, there's no shame. If we're watching you in late April, we're good with you. You see what I'm saying? You're battling. You're in the mix.
You're saying that now, but you just said he had to go get a championship or it's underachieved.
Because it's one title, because he's so phenomenal and so great. I'm not blaming him for it.
I got you.
I'm simply saying because he's so phenomenal. Let's transition to football for a second and think about what we talk about with Aaron Rodgers. Why do we talk about Aaron Rodgers?
100%.
Because you won 1 Super Bowl title in 2010 and you've never been back.
Yeah.
And even when Tom Brady was at his height, even though Tom Brady was Tom Brady, we still looked at Aaron Rodgers and we said, as a talent, this might be the greatest quarterback we've ever seen until Patrick Mahomes came along. And then we ultimately elevated our critique towards Aaron Rodgers because it's like, yo, you going home early. What's up with that?
But this is Stephen A. Smith using talking points that he pushes out to the masses to try to make his argument for another segment is dumb. Just because you decide to speak about basketball or sports or whatever have you in this fashion doesn't mean that it's accurate. So you sitting there saying, hey, we expected Kevin Durant to win too. Yeah, but also Kevin Durant came in the NBA with Russell Westbrook and James Harden, Serge Ibaka with a much better roster in the beginning part of his career than Giannis did. Then he decided to pivot over to playing with Curry and then with the Golden State Warriors. So it's like the pieces to the puzzle of winning a championship isn't you have a star and then that's it. You need to have the complementary pieces around you. And I think Stephen A. is probably more on the side of going on and being traded. But at the end of the day, if if you are not able to win a championship, if it's not because of you, I don't see how you could say it's underwhelming. But the question needs to be, is Karl Malone underachieving? Did Patrick Ewing, is he an underachiever? John Stockton, y'all need to be asking. Don't had them old heads hit up his line and say, "Don't call me underachiever, nigga. Watch your tone."
Mm-hmm. That ain't gonna suffice. Well, it's applicable to Giannis or anybody else. When you're that great, a level of great achievement is expected to come along with it. That's all. And it's not. I don't think it's his fault at all.
I get it.
If he leaves, the upside of competing for another championship is there. But if he leaves and he fails,
right,
the reputation takes a much bigger hit than staying in Milwaukee and struggling.
Fair enough.
UD?
And what I would say about great players is once you're a great player, you've earned the right to handpick where you want to go. There's not a damn team in that association ain't going to take Giannis if he want to be there.
You did.
So the reason why I say wherever he goes, he's going to win a championship, because Giannis ain't leaving unless it's a situation where he knows he's definitely going to put himself in the place to win a championship. If not, he's just going to stay in Milwaukee and chill out.
All right, so tell me right now, as the landscape sits, what places do you think are built for that? Because
great question.
Even if you say the Knicks just came off of a terrific run, it's going to cost them so much that I don't know. No, I want to hear from UD. I'm running this right now. I'm doing you.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow. But the Knicks,
Look at this.
It would cost so much. I don't know if you have enough depth with the Knicks, right? Miami kept coming up. That's not it. San Antonio might be the best, realistic option. But where do you see UD that he could go and do it now?
I mean, you talk about a team that has assets. I know I've heard he does not want to go out west. But I look at the Rockets. I look at Ime Udoka. I look at the assets that they have.
Okay.
Does he fit into that system? That's another question, because once again, this is a team who struggled to score from the perimeter.
Yeah.
But if he can be on that roster, that's a team who we looked at that team, and that team was 1-2 in the West all year last year. So that's a young, exciting team. I love what Ime Udoka does. I love him as a leader.
First of all, I got 3 teams that he could go to.
That's going to win now.
Well, you go ahead on then.
Houston.
Okay.
To a lesser degree, Detroit. Let's not sleep on them.
Huh. Okay,
A very
I haven't heard that
interesting
one.
situation in Detroit. Here's where I guarantee you he'll win. Oklahoma City.
That's not happening,
hold on, wait a minute.
Okay.
That ain't going to happen, Steve. I wish.
Listen, hold on, fellas, ladies.
Nobody wants to hear it, it sounds like.
Y'all have any idea? No, do y'all realize no one has more assets to offer a team than OKC?
But thank goodness this video's over. But they haven't made the trade yet. And on top of that, the amount of money that they would have to move around to get that deal done is also unfathomable. They would have to move a lot of real legitimate players to get the job done. And also, if they weren't willing to trade for Cam Johnson, my nigga, then I don't know if they're willing to commit or take that much of a commitment for Giannis. They're just not. That is a team that has been trying to avoid steep luxury tax payments for the last 15 years. So I don't understand where that came from. The team that he would need to go to that would make the most sense, it's the Spurs. The Spurs just makes the most sense. Pair him next to Wemby, unstoppable front court defensively with an actual guard in De'Aaron Fox who can also shift the defense. Jump shot needs to be slightly better. They have the assets, they have the young players, and they can put themselves in a position to win really, really early. Really, really, really early. And I think it would make a lot of sense. But I'll say this. I agree the overall sentiment. If you trade Giannis, there's a lot of things that are at jeopardy. I'm actually gonna make a video about that on the Low Post channel about trading for Giannis and KD. People need to be very cautious about doing that because there's a lot of random talks of people doing that. But you can put yourself in a very bad situation by shifting that much money to go get KD or Giannis on a roster and then end up losing a lot of your identity. And that's to Houston in particular. I think you need to what you call that. And saying that Giannis is an underachiever is ridiculous. Bro, what are we doing?